What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Welcome into the Wrong Repeater podcast here on 7220sports.com. I am Cody Tucker, joined by Jared Newland. We are in downtown Cheyenne, Wyoming, a stone's throw from the Wyoming State Legislature where they're doing stuff.
Just getting after it.
whatever it is they do.
I have a lot of friends who are involved, and this is just 30 to 45 days, depending on which session it is. Just you don't even want to try to reach out to them to talk to them.
Yep.
Just because they're just burnt out.
What's funny is I spent some time talking to Jay Savell, Wyoming's new football coach, of course, at a basketball game a couple weeks ago, and he was kind of like, now I'm starting to see the things that head coaches do, which includes walking into that state capitol to shake hands and say hi and let people know he cares so that the money keeps flowing into the University of Wyoming. And just told him, bring the bronze boot. That's all you got to do, man.
Yep.
Just bring that boot and say hi.
Those guys are kids just like us. We want to see that thing as much as possible.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's winding down, though, so that's good, and hopefully everything that of importance, not only to the university, but of importance of anything,
yep,
is going to get passed. So we'll see.
Yep, and this can kind of segue, hate to do that, but obviously the university community, the state, everybody's still reeling from the tragic car accident, single vehicle accident last Thursday, just 8 days ago on 287 in northern Colorado. Something that we've talked about, of course, loss of life, 3 swimmers, Carson Muir, Charlie Clark, and Luke Slabber all lost their life. 2 other male members of the swim team also went to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, according to reports. 287, Jared, you're older than I am. You've been around it enough. 287 is so bad, and there are so many horrible tragedies that have happened on that road. I think Wyoming has done its part as far as the legislature and getting money to where it needs to go to help 287 and to make it a safer highway, but I think it's Colorado's turn.
I totally agree, and it's definitely gotten better on the Wyoming side. I can only think of one time I've driven that road in the last 15 years.
Yeah,
and it was because I was forced to, because the roads were closed on I-80, and I had to get home.
Yep.
But luckily, it was one of those situations to where nobody had a choice. Everybody was driving the same speed, no matter what.
Yeah.
So I felt safe, type of a deal. So, but Wyoming, for the most part, has done their part. I mean, in a perfect world, you would hope to see a split highway with a borrow ditch in between, or a concrete median, whatever it may be, and 2 lanes all the way. They've done it in some areas, and they did add the rumble strips down the middle of the roads, not just on the shoulders, but down the middle as well, all the way on the Wyoming side. But yeah, that Colorado side, something needs to be done, and it's sad to say, but it always takes a tragedy for somebody to react or a state to react. It happens in everything.
No doubt.
Reaction is what they do. And
I think we've had enough examples
and
now.
I was just going to say, I'm not going to start rattling names off because it brings back bad memories, but it's in one of your stories, so if people want to read. And that's only on the athletics side. And I know we're missing a few too, but that has nothing to do with just the normal citizens or residents or
students,
out-of-state residents that die on that road, or just students and faculty that have that's really truly affected the Wyoming family or the University of Wyoming family. And it's sad. But at the same time, people just have to slow down if it takes 5 more minutes to get somewhere, it's worth a lifetime.
Yeah, and we don't know why this crash happened yet. We don't have a clue, but and it's jumping to conclusions. Of course, anything could have happened, but I mean, we've just seen so many horrible things on that highway that it's hard not to just go, damn it, figure it out, man. Something's got to be done on this road, and that happened by Livermore or so. I mean, you're still probably 20 miles from the border or so.
Yeah, Virginia Dale, Livermore area, right?
Yeah,
so,
yep.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how far that is, and when you look at the video that 9 News and 7 News had of it, I mean, it was completely dry.
Yep. Nice sunny day.
Yeah, so who knows? I mean, I guess, sad to say once again, it'd be interesting to see what the 2 survivors have to say about it, even if they say anything at all.
Boy, do they have a long road of recovery, both physically and mentally. That's tough, man. And I know I was still pretty young when the 8 cross country members were killed, but I do remember Ruben Narcisse pretty well, and that one, he had teammates in the car that survived too, and I know that they still struggle to this day, thinking about it every single day. And then when something like this happens, it just comes right back to the forefront. So, Once again, those 3 swimmers, Carson Muir, Charlie Clark, Luke Slabber, thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. And it's been a beautiful thing to come out of tragedy. Once again, Jared, that we've seen this GoFundMe that the university set up for these 3 swimmers is now at $134,000+. And we've seen current players, past players, rivals. I got to be honest with you, Jared. You know me well enough to know, I mean, I'm an emotional kind of cat, but not necessarily in the crying kind of way. When I saw that picture online of CSU swimmer with a bucking horse on her cheek and Wyoming with a heart down her arm, that kind of got me.
And just the look on her face.
Yes.
And now I'm sure she was getting ready to jump in the pool and race a race, but at the same time, it's like, man, you could just tell she was affected.
Yep.
Just by the look on her face. And it's been great to see. And it's not just swimmers that are donating. I mean, you see football players' names, you see former basketball players' wife who's in the NBA donated. And it's like you said, it's really cool to see everybody come together, and all the alumni associations from a lot of conference foes and things like that have donated.
Yep.
And there is a memorial service in Laramie on Wednesday, March 6th, 6 p.m. in the AA. So I'm sure that'll be very well attended. And I remember being at the cross-country one, and it was one of the saddest things I've ever sat through.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to – I don't even know if I want to be at that, to be perfectly honest with you. I can't imagine what the 8 was like. I truly can't imagine what that was like. But
last Thursday, they said the accident happened around 2:45 p.m. or something like that. And I didn't see it until it was later in the evening when stuff started coming out about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh, shit. And my wife goes, what? She was like mad at me because I think she was trying to sleep. And I told her, and she was just like, oh, man, not again.
Yep, not again. And hopefully not again.
And I still remember to the day and the minute where I was when I got the phone call about the 8.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I mean...
that's when I was working there. So.
Well, and everybody was reeling at that time from 9/11.
And really, you can say that accident was caused of 9/11 because they would have been at a competition that weekend.
Yep.
Instead, they had the weekend off because everything was off.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, it was another Wyoming student athlete involved in the other vehicle, and it just... What a terrible, terrible situation. But this thing started at $60,000. They were trying to raise $60,000 to help with funeral expenses and costs for the family, especially Luke Slabber, who is from South Africa. That's going to cost, a pretty penny, but they got to be just really – the thing I love, Jared, is that these families are going through such a hard time right now, but I think now they know that they did the right thing and they sent their kids to the right place.
Oh, totally agree with that, yeah. And, I mean, it's weird to see that none of these were state of Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess weird's probably not the right word, but I mean, they're Las Vegas, Birmingham, Alabama, and South Africa.
Yeah.
Those aren't neighboring states even.
No.
They're a long ways away. So these parents have faith in the university and the Wyoming swim and dive coaching staff to take care of their kids. And just unfortunately that the women's team was in Houston at the Mountain West Championships and that the men are at the WAC championships down there this weekend. So it's just a tough deal for that staff for sure, and everybody that was on the team.
Yeah, and I heard earlier in the day that something had happened. Charlie Clark, who you mentioned from Las Vegas, my cousin Dylan Wright, who grew up in Reno but now lives in Vegas, he swam with club teams and stuff with Charlie Clark. I believe Charlie's from Boulder City, so they swam together on club teams. And my cousin signed his letter of intent and is now at the University of Virginia as a swimmer. Wyoming was actually really looking at him as well. So Charlie went to UW, and they obviously remained close. So heard about him early on, but obviously when it comes to something like that, you better be right and you better not even mess around. So that's one where you just kind of step back and let authorities tell you who perished and what happened, all that.
Yep, absolutely.
On to a lighter note, Wyoming's football schedule came out yesterday. For the most part, we still could get a Friday game, a Thursday game. There could be some of that. You know how the TV, the big dogs at the TV stations like to work. But the schedule is out. And we already knew who the Cowboys were playing. We knew where the Cowboys were playing. Now we know when they're playing. I'm in the middle of writing my second part about breaking down Wyoming's schedule and my thoughts on it, but we can definitely talk about it here. I mean, the Cowboys, 4 of their first 6 games are at home. Got to love that. But on the flip side, 1 of 3 at the end are in Laramie. Maybe it's interesting because some Wyoming fans think, cool, it's cold, it's miserable at that time anyway. However, either way you cut it, it's a disadvantage to be on the road 3 of 4 games in November.
Yeah, and there's an open date in there in November as well. So and that just happens to be, I guess I don't know when the state high school championships are because Wyoming's at CSU the following week, but
it's probably about right.
It's right. It's one of those 2 weeks, but I like it when there's only one open week. In the season instead of 2. And now coaches and players probably say, no, this works out perfect.
And reporters.
You don't count. You got 5 games, open week, 4 games, open week, and then 3 games. So I do kind of like, I guess, how this lays out as far as getting rest and stuff like that. And especially with you never know, the new 12-game playoff and then the championship game would be that first week in December. Then the playoffs would start right away. Type of a deal. So, having that extra break in there probably does help for a lot of teams, and hopefully Wyoming's in the mix at some point to be mentioned to be that G5 spot. But we're not going to get into predictions today, are we?
No.
Oh, thank goodness.
No.
We don't even know who the starters are.
Yeah, and even so, when you look and you say 3 of 4 in November plus the bye week, of course. The one thing that could be viewed at as a good thing is that game at Washington State to cap the year, November 30th in Pullman, that does not count toward the Mountain West stats. Obviously, you want to win that game, and if you're thinking huge, you're thinking of that 12-team playoff. But if you're thinking about simply the Mountain West race, 2 of those games, one's at New Mexico, one's at Colorado State. And don't get me wrong, folks, it still feels really weird for me to look at Colorado State as it's only in Fort Collins. It's only, they're only going to Fort Collins. As a kid, you would never say that. You'd go, oh, God, this is the year we go to Fort Collins. Now it's like, they go to Fort Collins, they go to Albuquerque, 2 winnable games. You got Boise State at home November 23rd. And aside from last year's absolute laid egg, Wyoming has closed the gap on Boise State. And I saw a Boise State beat writer, one of them I actually respect, Ron Counts. He wrote yesterday that Boise State's conference schedule is a cakewalk. And I had to read it because, it's not the hardest schedule in the world. They don't play Air Force. They don't have CSU. I don't even know if they have Fresno State now that I think about it. But I was like, what is he going to say about Wyoming in late November? Well, the altitude and weather can be tough. So can the Cowboys. I know that we have short memories, and Wyoming really, really played bad in Boise last year. But give me a break.
Well, it's not like Boise's coming from sea level.
No.
No. Quit saying that.
I know.
This altitude stuff, other than Hawaii and San Diego State, should not matter.
No, definitely. But I just thought, man, I hope some Wyoming Cowboys are reading this because cakewalk going into Laramie. Wyoming won 9 games last year. What are we talking about? And I know the game he witnessed was really bad by the Cowboys, no doubt about it. That's one of the worst games I've witnessed.
And they're all, I'm sure, their quarterback, the 5-star kid, the transfer from USC.
The pampered baby who...
There's a reason he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's probably not going to work out.
Yeah. Wouldn't break my heart a bit. I saw yesterday another beat writer in Boise asking why Ashton Genty's not on the Heisman finalists board at Circa in Las Vegas. Like, give me a break, dude. Give me a giant break. He's a really good running back, but...
Well, he better average 200 yards in all the non-conference games to even be thought about.
And their non-conference isn't exactly easy. And they start their season at Georgia Southern. That's a random, weird, not easy place to start a season, I would imagine. Not to mention they play Oregon State and Washington State this year because they already had them scheduled, and Oregon on the road.
Is the heat index going to be worse at Georgia Southern or in Tempe, Arizona for the Cowboys?
Probably the humidity. I mean, I've never played football in humidity or dry heat like that, so I can't really speak to it.
I've tried to work out in it before when I lived in Tulsa and San Antonio. It's brutal.
It's brutal.
It hurts.
Yeah. Yeah, so that one might hurt because you're losing so much moisture out of your body. I don't know.
Oh, boy, here comes the pickle juice.
It's going to be rough.
The beet juice.
Yeah. Wishing the white uniforms. I actually wrote yesterday, I hope that game's at midnight. It'll still be 100 degrees.
If you look back for 20 years, the first 2 or 3 home games for ASU are always nice.
They don't want to play in it either.
And especially, and because they're in the dark uniforms.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be at night. It's just if it's a 7 o'clock, a 6 o'clock, and 8 o'clock,
You know what always comes to my mind, and I can't think of the year right offhand, but what always comes to my mind is when Wyoming played that home game in Nashville. And they were so kind that they let Wyoming wear white that night. As Tennessee beat their ass up and down the field all night long.
I had a lot of fun that trip, but the game wasn't one of them.
No. But looking at this, breaking down, Arizona State was horrid last year. Really bad. Their only non-conference win was a 3-point win over Southern Utah at home in the opener. They got smoked by Fresno State, 29-0. They are not a good team, and they are in total flux. Their coach is like 32 years old, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I mean, he's got a rebuild job to do, and I know they've been hot on the portal. They've also lost a ton to the portal. Idaho, God bless them, FCS team, played really well last year. They lost all their dogs to the transfer portal.
Some cat named Marcus Harris.
Yeah. He was pretty good. That's a good name.
Both schools.
In general, yeah. I'll never forget that Idaho-Wyoming shootout in 1996, by the way. But Idaho lost. Oh, my God. They lost a tremendous amount. BYU coming in. BYU still trying to find themselves in a new conference right now. You have to believe that game is going to be sold out for weeks ahead of time, and it is going to be rowdy. And I would argue, aside from the Utah game in Salt Lake City this year, this is going to be the most hostile environment they're going to play in.
I would agree with that.
North Texas, speaking of teams that just got absolutely killed by the portal, they lost a 3,000-yard passer, a 1,000-yard receiver, a 1,000-yard running back, his backup, and his backup. So if you're going to rebuild, North Texas is a good place to do it. You got a lot of talent outside your door, but North Texas they already had a kind of a rough season last year anyway. When I look at that, I wrote about it yesterday, winnable. Absolutely winnable. Is it going to be easy to play Arizona State on the surface of the sun? No, it's not. BYU's huge, old, all the things BYU always is. But they're also looking for a quarterback, something they haven't said in Provo in, 50 years? So
they got somebody.
They'll find somebody, yeah. So I think that's a very winnable start.
Yeah, I agree with that. Once again, Denton, Texas is going to be hot and humid no matter what time of year, in September. I mean, but all the way up through end of October, it would probably be some sort of heat factor. So
no doubt.
At least Wyoming will have one under their belt in the heat.
Yep.
And then they'll get prepared again.
And Laramie isn't exactly cold during early September either. Those are
the heat index on that field is
hot. Remember Frank Crum standing in ice buckets last year on the sideline? Yeah, it's
Well, then you get into then you get that open week, and then you get into the conference season.
Well, you have Air Force first.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Air Force then open.
I don't even talk about that. I can't stand them. So then you look at the remaining 7 games though after the Air Force and the open date. 4 of those games come against brand new coaches.
Oh, yeah. Yep, San Diego State, I just wrote about that today. Sean Lewis, we've seen Sean Lewis. He was the head coach, of course, at Kent State. I guess I didn't even realize that because I think transfer portal hell opened for Wyoming right after that game. They put up nearly 700 yards of total offense against the Cowboys that day. 2 running backs over 100 yards, 2 receivers over 100 yards, quarterback threw for 4 touchdowns. Levi Williams was that good. So that's what Sean Lewis is going to attempt to build in San Diego. Will he have the horses now right away off the bat? A place that has not had a good quarterback in ever.
Since Kevin O'Connell was the head coach of the Vikings?
Yep. They have not been able to find a quarterback, and that has been the missing piece. And to me, as much as I can't stand their arrogance and all the things they've said in this last calendar year because of their basketball run, they have never found a quarterback. And if they did, they would have been gone a long time ago. In my opinion, they would have found a new home. They would have been in the Pac-12
they would
years
have been
ago.
Just driven up the I-5 or whatever it's called. Or what is that road? Is it I-5?
I-5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'd be in the Big 12
Highway.
right now.
Yeah,
they'd be into the Big 12 right now if they ever found a quarterback because they've had awesome defense, they've had awesome playmakers, their running backs have been incredible. Just haven't figured it out. So I wrote in my story today, you don't really know what to expect from San Diego State. They're probably still going to have some hard-nosed defensive guys. They're probably still going to be finding themselves. What is our quarterback going to look like? You love that game's in Laramie.
Yep. And they haven't been there since the championship game, right?
No. Nope, not since 2016, which is crazy. Yeah, and then San Jose State the following week, Chavin Cordero is finally out of eligibility after 20 years at Hawaii and 20 more years at San Jose State. He's finally gone.
Has he applied for his AARP card yet?
Yes, he tried to look for an extra year. That guy was really good, and he's been there a long, long time. But once again, like you said, they're starting over with a new coach, Brent Brennan now down at Arizona. They land Navy's former coach, Ken. I think we screwed this up last time. Low.
Yeah.
Really good coach.
Nimalayo or whatever.
Who is not, I read today when I was doing my research, his plan is to not run option at all at San Jose State. So we'll see what he brings to the table. We'll see what an offense looks like that, all we've ever seen out of that cat is
I wonder if
option.
coaches from options, they want to see if they can do it.
Probably. How could you not?
The conventional way.
Yeah. Now that you have an offensive line who can hold up and pass pro.
Yep.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. I did see San Jose State, though, has lost damn near their entire offensive line. It's going to be a rebuild. Like we said, there's 6 new coaches in this conference this year, including Wyoming's. But I think you have to feel like Jay Savell is a much better play, to be the defense coordinator for 4 years. He knows the lay of the land. He knows what's up. So Utah State coming in the following week. I wrote about that, of course, today, too. Some fans were upset that wasn't a protected rivalry, Jared. CSU and Air Force are, when the Mountain West got rid of divisions before last year. To me, this is not a protected rivalry. This is really manufactured, and maybe it's because we don't live on the west side of the state, but to me, they're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Nothing's going to replace losing Utah and BYU, and it certainly isn't Utah State. Do I hope something sparks some serious hatred? Yes. And you would think trading quarterbacks like the 2 schools did with Peasley and Levi Williams, that maybe that would have gave some bad blood to this, but not really.
Well, when they played each other back in the 60s and 70s, there was hatred.
Yeah, and Utah State owned this rivalry in the 20s and 30s. And they have a huge lead in this series. It's like 40-27 or something like that. Not huge, but 40-26, something like that. Cowboys go to New Mexico and meet up with Bronco Mendenhall. Boy, that was a trip down memory lane I could have gone without. He is 6-0 against the Wyoming Cowboys as head coach at BYU, and average margin of victory was about 32.
Those were some really bad years in Wyoming football.
Including 2 shutouts, like 44-0, 52-0 There was a 55-7 in there. He owned that rivalry.
Enough of that. Let's go on to the next one.
But Broncos taking on an unbelievable task.
Well, and you look at this schedule, too. This is the only time when Wyoming goes on the road twice in a row. And there's an open date in between, and the other one's at CSU. So, it's a road game, but you're just on a bus.
Yep.
And you look at this as well, there's really no hard road trips. I mean, you're not going across a lot of time zones. The only one
San Jose.
You go to Central once with North Texas.
Yep.
And then the other ones are in the Mountain or Pacific time zones. And yeah, San Jose is probably in Washington State, but that's not all that hard of a road trip.
Yeah, Wazoo's on the very eastern
and
border.
you land right there on the Palouse. And actually, because I was on the trip when Wyoming went to Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool flying into that airport because it's just surrounded by wheat fields.
Oh, cool.
It is just rolling hills after rolling hills of wheat fields.
It looks neat.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And then you drive 5 miles. I mean, you land on the Washington side and you drive 5 miles and you're in Moscow, Idaho.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
So wild. I've been told that you need to fly into Spokane for this one if you're just going to the game as a fan.
Yeah, because I think Pullman's airport is very similar to Laramie and Cheyenne. It's going to another puddle
gonna cost you.
and it's going to cost you.
It's going to cost you. Yeah, so love the open date before Colorado State. Unfortunately, the Rams also have an open date before the border war as well, but that's 2 rested up teams right there. Maybe something huge to play for at that time. Braden Fowler, Nicolosi showed he could be a gunslinger last year. He threw for 3,400 yards. For some odd reason, Torrey Horton's coming back. If those guys can figure it out and he can cut down on the turnovers, CSU's offense could finally start to look like the air raid that Norvell's been looking for.
Well, and if it's anything like the past 3 years, Torrey Horton's going to be banged up come November 16th.
96 catches last year. That's mind-boggling.
And he could have had probably 120 if he wasn't banged up.
Exactly. He's such a threat in the return game, but do you even put him back there?
As long as you have somebody else, I think you have to replace him and say, we need you on offense.
Yeah. I don't even know if I haven't even looked, but I don't think I need to. I don't think Wyoming's entire receiving core had 96 receptions last year, including tight ends. That's how much they rely on this cat. I mean, Marcus Harris wasn't catching 96 balls a year. I don't think Ryan Yarborough was.
They were in the 70s, I think, weren't they?
I think so.
Maybe low 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 96. That's incredible.
So that's a lot of short passes
of short.
And taking shots.
Because I think he only had 1,100 or 1,200 receiving yards, so you're seeing that he's taking a ton of shots. And he's not a big human being, so he's taking some hits. CSU did lose. You know, they've lost some guys. Muhammad Kamara right now he's dazzling right now at the NFL Combine, and I would assume Dallin Holker, too, the big tight end, BYU transfer. He also he declared for the NFL draft and is at the Combine right now as well. So they're going to have to replace some dudes, but it's year 3. It's time for Norvell to start making hay here, because not only is he going into that year 4, which is always a critical year for a head coach, they just got rid of their athletic director. They're totally changing things. A new AD is going to want his guy if Jay Norvell can't prove. And they went from 3 wins this first year to 5 last year. But that first year, Jared, is unbelievable to think about. They never scored more than 19 points in a game. And last year, they only did it a few times. Aside from the 35 points or 34 points they put on Jay Sauvel's defense during that weird 2020 COVID year, he hasn't even allowed – his defense haven't allowed more than 17 points to CSU in 3 outings. Do
you think Norvell thinks back and why did I leave Nevada?
I don't think so, and the only reason I say that is because Nevada they don't put any money or resources in, and that stadium is atrocious.
But he was winning.
He was winning,
and he had all those players there that some of them came to CSU and didn't work out. But, I mean, he may have been able to go to a couple bowl games by now if he would have stayed there and kept that train going.
Probably, but that's probably the ceiling, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but
CSU, you would think the ceiling would be Mountain West titles and possibly cracking that 12.
But you do that at Nevada for a couple more years, then maybe you're in P5.
Yeah, and he's a P5 guy. He came from P5,
not just going to another conference foe.
Yeah, so I think that was an FU. Is what that was. They didn't pay him. They didn't respect him. Not only a big FU on the way out the door, not only am I going to a conference opponent, I'm taking 15 dudes with me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting stuff. Big year for Jay Norvell. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Rams. They open at Texas. They have to play CU. That game's going to be in Fort Collins. I'm calling right now there's going to be tear gas at some point. Guaranteed.
No, I'm not going to go to that game, but it would actually be kind of fun to be up in the furthest corner just to, like, not even watch the game.
Watch them kill each other.
But, like, take videos of people doing stupid things.
Too bad it's going to cost a fortune to be in that. Why they're playing at home stadiums when they have – they can't even sell out Mile High.
They weren't, though.
I know.
That's the problem.
But they didn't have Deion Sanders at the time either.
Yeah, that's true, but I still think that this game needs to be on the home campuses.
Yeah.
I like it.
It just sucks that so many people are not going to be able to get – we'd have to pay about $300 a ticket to probably be in the worst seat in that house just to
not
watch
if you
these
had
idiots.
season tickets.
Yeah, true. I'm not giving them money for
No,
season
but that's the thing. People complain about single game ticket prices. Buy season tickets, folks.
Yeah,
it's the
Nebraska
cheapest
sure did it.
way to go.
Nebraska sure did it in Laramie, didn't they? Yeah. I don't ever want to see that again. If we ever play them in a neutral site place, fine. I don't mind seeing Mile High being 3/4 red, but to see Laramie like that again, that was gross. I hated every second of it. Big one that I have circled, Jared, and it's maybe not the cakewalk that Ron Counts thinks it is, but Boise State in Laramie, November 23rd. This is not, no offense, this is not Jaden Clemens making his first start, so you would think. This is a whole new ball game. The Cowboys are returning nearly their entire defense, nearly their entire offensive line. They're returning a lot of weapons on offense, and I think we all believe in Evan Svoboda just from what we've seen so far.
Definitely. And there could be a lot on the line because the game after this doesn't count in the standings.
Yep.
So this could be
huge
for a spot in that championship game.
Yeah, and wouldn't mind one bit seeing Boise State back in Laramie 2 weeks later. Wouldn't mind that a bit. So it's weird to me, though. I've seen other reporters around the conference that have been like, they're not giving Wyoming any credit, any hope, any chance. I'm seeing like 4 wins, 5 wins. I'm like, are you doing your homework at all?
But they were middle of the pack last year, and look where they ended up. So I don't mind it when other people don't. As long as Wyoming's coaching staff knows what they have,
yeah,
that's fine. Because we've seen it go the other way when they've been picked, and it happens in other sports too.
Yep.
And they've been picked up to the top, and just it's like there's just too much pressure.
Yeah, definitely don't need it. But yeah, I think after talking to Savell on and off the record, he makes you feel like, you know, just the grin going, oh, they picked us where? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of getting that. You look at this, and I know I can speak for Ryan Thorburn and Alex Taylor. When we go to these things like Mountain West Media Day, we sit there and we see Wyoming come out as 6th, and we look at each other like, are we the stupid ones? No, it clearly has not been that way. We call a spade a spade. If Wyoming's not looking like they're going to be worth a damn, I remember going into 2019, for instance, the first year I ever covered the Cowboys, I'd go on shows and they'd say, well, what are you thinking? And I would literally say, I don't know. I don't have a clue. This could be a 3-win team or a 7-win team. They went out and won 8 and won the Arizona Bowl. But before that year, I don't think anybody had Wyoming pegged to do anything.
Yeah, let's get through spring ball and see where things are, because you actually get to go to some practices other than just the game, so you get to go see some stuff.
Yeah.
And
so do you. Anyone.
Yeah.
That's what's
anybody.
so cool, man. Can you imagine, too, being a player, being like, oh, man, there's fans here. There's people watching us. I love this.
Yeah, I still think about why Craig Bohl said that he didn't want any distractions at practice. He goes, can you imagine if these players had their girlfriends up there and they were up there, you know, jacking around, smiling, pointing at them and stuff. I get that part of it, but at the same time, at least allow the media there.
Yeah.
And it's a one-strike thing. If you report something that is not supposed to be reported, you're banned.
Yep.
Just go back to the old rules.
Yep.
But
and whoever that reporter is, we put bars of soap in pillowcases and we beat the shit out of them.
That might be a little hard.
But no, I'm with you. I mean, as long as we get to see, I would love to see, because when I hear Craig Bohl after 2021 say, I don't have any quarterbacks that can throw a 10-yard out against air, sure wish I could have saw that.
It, yeah.
Yeah, I could have saw that and then been like, all right, fans, for real, they're in trouble. They're in big trouble. So, yep, so that's Wyoming's schedule. I love it so far. We don't know Obviously, some games are going to get switched to Fridays and Thursdays probably.
Yeah.
But we don't know yet which one, so might as well not stress about it now. Would love to see the Border War on a Saturday, but
just remember, folks, the athletics department, they can put in their wish list for certain games not to be televised and kickoff times like that, but when it comes to the national TV games, they have no say-so.
And they pay the bills.
So there's a good chance Idaho is going to be in the middle of the afternoon on the Mountain West Network.
Yep.
Then BYU is going to be a CBS or a Fox game. And
does Wyoming get that, though, or can BYU pick that up, like as an ESPN game?
No, since it's a Wyoming home game, it's the conference alignment.
Okay.
Yep. So in North Texas, I don't even know. I think they have a CBS Sports. That conference has that, so that's a possibility there. Then Air Force is most likely going to be a 5 o'clock CBS Sports game.
Yep.
That's just the way it's been.
Yep.
So live with it. And the weather for those games have been great. So.
And honestly, this might be the Arizona State game might be your ESPN After Dark.
Yeah.
Might be your nightcap.
8 o'clock, 9 o'clock start. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would.
I was there. It's dating now 10 years ago, but it was a Thursday night game against UCLA in the end of September, and it was like 110 at kickoff.
Yeah.
There was steam rising from the field. It looked like the Fog Bowl.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I've never been to a game down there in prime time, like prime summer time. So,
and I was even talking to my friends who are ASU folks, and I said, well, you got to get us all these Soul Devil tailgate tickets. He goes, we don't even do tailgates the first game because it's too hot.
Oh.
I said, well, you're going to for this one, damn it.
And that stadium is basically built into a mountainside, so it just looks...
I haven't been in it since it's been totally redone.
It looks cool. Yeah. I just drove by it at the Arizona Bowl.
Well, let's stay on football, or what were you going to say?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just saw that Brett McMurphy released that the NCAA Football Rules Committee proposed adding 2-minute warning timeouts, just like the NFL. And then Pat Forty goes, last year, we're implementing ways to make the games faster. This year, let's add a 2-minute warning and timeouts in both halves.
I don't necessarily hate it, honestly, because 2 minutes kind of lets you know that, all right, man, it's absolutely
and especially time. Since they changed the rules where the clock runs, by going out of bounds until the 2 minutes.
Yep.
So I do too. Yeah. I wouldn't mind it. It's just instead of those full timeouts for TV, let's just make them all 30s.
Yeah.
And show two 15-second commercials and then go on to the next one.
You know what's going to be interesting, too? There's going to be a green dot on defense now. There's going to be headsets.
Well, that's what this says, and it said also proposes the use of communications through helmet to one player on the field.
Yep.
And it'll be turned off with 15 seconds left on the play clock. I mean, these are proposed. They're probably both going to pass.
Yep.
Because they did do some toying around with the communication during bowl season.
Yep, Craig Bull did. Yep. Apparently they were going to go with it, but Toledo wasn't ready for that yet, so that's why they didn't.
I mean, there's high schools that have this.
Oh, yeah.
In bigger states and bigger programs.
Thank you, Michigan.
Well, the comments on this are pretty funny.
Yeah, I bet.
So, in fact, there was one that was one comment was stop tweaking stuff that isn't broken, and then somebody from Michigan State, Go Green, says, I smell another cheating scandal by Michigan by ignoring the latter part of turning it off with 15 seconds.
Yeah.
But there is somebody that's in the stadium that monitors, just like at every NFL stadium, that those things are turned off. So that does add another expense, too, from the conference that they have to hire somebody to monitor this stuff.
And all the equipment.
Yep. So it's a cost, but, I mean, that's why they're making more money than ever. Yep. That's why already after they're implementing a 12-team playoff, they've already proposed a 14-team playoff 2 years later. It's all about the money.
Just wait till next year. Receivers are going to have 2 feet down. It's going to just be all NFL rules. It's going to be universal.
I don't mind the 2 feet down thing.
Yeah.
I don't want them to probably go to being down. If you fall down, I think you should be down.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, but 10 years from now, 5 years from now, it probably will be all NFL rules. But now the NFL's toying with all their rules too. Like you can't even touch a quarterback. Kickoffs are going to be like the XFL were, and things. It's just whatever.
Well, and Craig Bull's probably going to have a lot to say about all this stuff, too. He's you want to get that cat on his soapbox. He loves that stuff, not to mention that's now his job.
Yeah, and he was the head of the Rules Committee, and now he's the head of the entire damn thing.
Yep. So these people, who I know you're close with a lot of them, I'm close with a couple of them. Casey Campbell, Tom Berman, Mike Hamill, Brett Hinson, Rob Jarash, Kevin McKinney, Pat Moran, Dale Ann Meeker, Bill Shraj.
Oh, Shraj. Yep.
Sally Ann Shermer, Reggie Slater, and Taylor Stuminke. I probably messed that up. These are your current committee members who decide who gets into the Wyoming Athletics Hall of Fame, which announced its class last week. One of my all-time favorite people right at the top, favorite players, favorite people, Javon Bonite, who played here from 2002 to 2005 from Denver, Colorado. He was absolutely incredible. He, to me, headlines this class, although Diane Dotson's getting a lot of love, and rightfully so. She's been in communications there longer than Tim Harkins, who, by the way, retired. I know a lot of you maybe don't recognize that name, but he's been the Wyoming SID for the better part of 3 decades. Diane Dotson has actually been there longer than him, and she does an unbelievable job.
Diane put up with a lot from myself and my cohorts back in the day.
Me too. She puts up with a lot of me too. I need this picture. I need it, and I need it yesterday.
Other than Diane and obviously Javon, one of my favorites going in is Coach Sanchez.
Yeah, I've heard great things about him as well.
I'm friends with a lot of track and cross country folks, and when I sent that to them, and I sent a picture of him out there at halftime, they were like, "Oh, it's about damn time."
Yeah.
Then they were also. Said some not so nice things to the people who fired Coach Sanchez.
Yeah.
But at the same time, water under the bridge. He's getting his due respect, and he's going to have a huge turnout of people in support for him.
That's awesome. Kelsey Conci, C-O-N-C-I, swimmer from 2009 to 2012.
Actually, it might be Conci.
Conci, maybe. C-O-N-C-I. Craig, Colorado. She was a 2-time All-American. Diane Dotson, of course. She's hometown Torrington, Wyoming. I didn't know that. 37 years, almost 4 decades.
T-Town.
Good for her. Adam Goldberg, football 1999 to 2002. You might recall 1999 to 2002 was not the best time in Wyoming football history. He was a 3-time All-Mountain West Conference selection at offensive tackle. I think him and Patrick Chukwura probably just battled it out in practice every day and
made each other better.
Made each other good, yeah. Joe Legursky goes without saying. He's another headliner here, 2004 to 2019, Rock Springs, Wyoming native. Former winningest coach in Wyoming women's basketball history. Obviously, the highlight there, the WNIT National Championship in 2007. Jim Sanchez, like you mentioned, La Jara, Colorado. He coached cross country from 1981 to 2003. Well, now that I see that cross country coach, he was the cross country coach during the worst of the worst time here. Jill Robbins Thomason, volleyball 91 to 94 from Bend, Oregon.
One of my favorite volleyball players of all time from back in the day. We were in school together.
Nice.
And she still is such a sweetheart. I saw her at the game, and I just told her congrats, and I said, I'll see you in September.
That's awesome.
She ended up being an assistant coach at CU for a while.
Well, looks like a pretty damn good class. Hope Javon Bonite can be here to do it. I loved seeing on social media the Marcus Harrises and the Ryan Yarboroughs and the Tanner Gentrys of the world reach out to him and say congrats. I mean, that's a Mount Rushmore of wide receivers right there in University of Wyoming history, and I know there's been a bunch, but those 4 are arguably the best. So
it'd be nice to get back to being called Receiver U again, wouldn't it?
It's so hard to believe, isn't it? You look at Javon Bonite's numbers and go, wow. Since 2016, I mean, just haven't seen it. Tanner, and who would have thought Tanner Gentry would be one of those guys? His first couple of years, he didn't really have a quarterback.
I mean, some of these guys' careers aren't even what some of these single seasons for Marcus, Ryan, and Javon were.
Totally.
And, then you got McGuffey.
Yep.
That's in there. Malcolm Floyd. And I'm shocked Malcolm Floyd hasn't been put in yet.
Scotty Vines was a pretty good player here. Had a better NFL career, actually.
What about basketball?
Basketball, yeah, basketball.
McLean still talks about that. He goes, yeah, I'm glad I was able to recruit an NFL guy for them.
Yep. Robert Huron, too. He's a guy who's not often talked about. Same with Dominic Ruffran.
Yeah.
Those guys put up a lot of numbers too while they were here. So a lot of good wide receivers in Wyoming history. So another thing to check off here before we close out with hoops. Easton Gibbs, Frank Crum, they're in Indianapolis right now at the NFL Combine. I saw Easton run yesterday. Saw he had a 4.7, 4.8, 40. I think he ran the exact same time in both of his attempts. Big thanks to Alan Saunders, one of my former DK Pittsburgh sports cast-offs, who are lucky now to be away from that creep and doing what we love. He hooked me up with a video he took of Easton Gibbs, and I'm sure he'll be talking to Frank Crum too. It was really cool to see the name slip in my mind, Sweat, I think, Devontae Sweat or whatever from Texas.
The defensive tackle.
Yeah, and that dude, like Craig Bull talked about him during the week, and he's like, that guy is like 370 pounds or something, like ridiculously big. Wyoming put him on skates all day long, and he said this week Wyoming was the toughest offensive line they faced all year. And I believe him, because Texas's defensive line didn't do squat, and that guy was neutralized all day long. So I love hearing that. That is really cool.
That is pretty cool. And then, yeah, overall, Easton's answers were really good.
Yeah.
And, of course, they're going to ask him, well, what's the most ridiculous question you've heard all week? And he goes, to be honest with you, haven't really heard any.
Yeah.
But there always are reports that come out of just like stuff that I can't even mention on here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you asking those questions?
Tell you what, we took the on a radio show in Michigan, we screwed around. We took the Wonderlic one day. That thing is brutal.
Funny you say that. The some of the guys on the Dan Patrick Takes a Gamble podcast, the 3 guys on there took it.
Oh.
And one guy goes, I scored a 29, but I didn't even answer one math question. So you got to give me 5 more points. And then another guy
29's good.
Well, I think it was a 34,
wow,
a 31, and a 29.
I want to say Josh Allen had like a 36, which is really good.
And then you can go in and compare to what that equates to, like an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
A bagger at a grocery store. Things like that.
I tell you what, I could only answer about 4 of those off the top of my head. They were really extremely hard. The math questions were those nightmares, like train A leaves the station at this time and B leaves at this time. Where do they meet?
So you got to think?
Oh, it's awful. Yeah, I'm terrible at math anyway, but this thing was so hard. One of the easiest questions on there, we actually had a caller. It was the funniest damn thing I've ever done on the air. We were absolutely in tears. One of the easiest questions, guy called in. We said, how many states are in the United States? And there's a pause. And my buddy Jason goes, oh, boy. And he goes, 52? And fell out of our chairs, absolutely crying. The easiest question, that's the one softball on this entire thing.
Was he including the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico maybe or whatever?
Must have been, but it was wrong.
Maybe Jamaica?
It was stuff like, what is the 6th planet from Saturn or 4th planet like outside of Saturn or stuff like that, where you're like, huh?
Google?
Yep, no idea. It was really, really hard. So we were joking too. I guess Travis Henry's got out. You remember the running back Travis Henry? I think he had like 9 kids, but he only got like a 4 on his Wonderlic test. Like we were talking about how he has so many more kids than he got points on his Wonderlic test. That thing's really hard though. When I saw Josh Allen got like a 36, that's impressive. Oh, excuse me. I think only one guy's ever nailed that. It was a punter, maybe an Ivy League punter.
Nerd.
I want to say got 100% on that. Don't know how. I encourage you to Google Wonderlic test and try and take one. It's absolutely horrible.
You know what? We'll do that next week on the show.
Oh my God. No way. We did get to meet Wyoming 3 new football coaches. We haven't been on in a long time. We just noticed before we came on. It's been about a month, if not more. So Wyoming did hire Jay Johnson, offensive coordinator, Michigan State. I believe we have touched on that. Also, Jason Petrino, very familiar with this area. He'll be the new safeties coach. He has had 2 different stints in Laramie under Dave Christensen and under Joe Glenn, and he spent last year as the safeties coach at North Dakota State. Or was he the DC at North Dakota State? This stuff gets jumbled on me. Either way, he was on the defensive staff at North Dakota State last year. So was Jeff Phelps, who is the Cowboys' new defensive tackles coach after Oscar Giles accepted the same position at the University of Houston. He's going home back to Texas. I know that raised a lot of antennas, and rightfully so. Oscar Giles wore a ton of hats during his brief stint in Laramie, the main hat arguably being his recruiting prowess in the state of Texas. However, Jeff Phelps, who spent the last 6 seasons before his 1 year at North Dakota State on the staff with Mike Leach at both Wazoo and Mississippi State, he was tasked with Texas, and he will once again take over for Oscar Giles. And to be honest with you, Jared, Oscar Giles is such a good human being. I could see him being like, hey, maybe this guy's not right for the University of Houston, but he's right for the University of Wyoming. You know, hey, Jeff, here's a guy that you should really get on. I would not be shocked in the slightest if Oscar Giles gave Wyoming some bones. Really good guy, really good human being. Not really surprised now that you look at this staff that's complete now. Jay Sauvel's bringing in a lot of his guys. He's coached with Jay Johnson and Jeff Phelps before in the past. Also, the guys who left, Tim Polasek, Oscar Giles, those are Craig Bowl guys. I mean, 100% Craig Bowl guys. Oscar has known Craig forever, and he came here simply because of Craig. And, of course, Tim Polasek coached with him at North Dakota State all those years. So, I love this staff. We met these guys. Jay Johnson was a lot of fun, really nice dude. I had heard from some of my former Michigan State colleagues that he was kind of a dry, not very interesting character. I didn't get that at all with this first meeting. He's really excited to be here. It's not like, oh, God, I got to go from Georgia, CU, Michigan State, down to Wyoming and start over. It's not like that at all. Yeah. He realizes there's some special stuff going on here. And Jeff Phelps, man, he's a funny dude, really engaging, great personality. You know, you don't work under Mike Leach for 6 years and not have a good personality. That's just – we all know that. So, and Jason Petrino, of course, he's just so excited to be here. And he was there for when Wyoming knocked off UCLA in the Vegas Bowl, and he was there for one or maybe both of Dave Christensen's wins in games in New Mexico in the New Mexico Bowl. So, good guys, cool guys. They're all like here. They're like, we're here to help. We're here to. What's going on here is really good. We're here to help. So.
Yeah, Jason made mention. He goes, I can't believe the transformation of the facility.
Oh, I know.
Since he was here.
Well, and we knew that, but then to hear Jay Johnson and Jeff Phelps, because I've said the same thing. Michigan State's, their facilities aren't all that compared to Wyoming's. It's not night and day by a long shot. They are right on par here. So to hear Jeff Phelps and Jay Johnson, two guys that have spent a lot of time at the P5 level, they were like, wow. I mean, you guys aren't farting around here is basically what they got at. So,
did they say farting?
Another F word maybe. A question I have, though, while I'm looking at this and talking about coaches and Jason Petrino being with a guy like Joe Glenn. Is Joe Glenn Wyoming Hall of Fame worthy, you think? The reason I say he is because of what he did for the university.
I was going to say the way he did it and how he turned it around.
And he snapped they hadn't won a bowl game in, 36 years or something like that until they beat UCLA? Yeah. And I would argue in my lifetime that win over UCLA was like winning the Super Bowl.
Oh,
I mean, it felt unbelievable.
And to get that bid the way they did with a 6-5 record or whatever it was, you know, and things like that, it was really cool. I mean, I remember the announcement of it was so cool. We had it up in the rack at the original high altitude center, but it was a packed house. It was one of those things that you anticipate, and behind the scenes we all knew what it was, but some of the people didn't know where. And when that lady got on the bowl director and said it was really, really cool.
And to be Las Vegas and to be against a traditional power like UCLA and to win it the way the Cowboys won it.
I still think back to, the team hotel was the Golden Nugget, and he called it the Brown and Golden Nugget. Because it was. I mean, the entire downtown was just brown and gold. And it was just so funny how he did things. And of course, he reunited this state.
Yes, he did.
Like nobody else has done before, and nobody else has done since.
That's got to be worth its weight in gold, doesn't it?
I would think so. I guess you need to look at what his overall record was and things like that too. And never won a conference championship.
No.
So I don't know if he is or not, to be honest with you. But there's people on there that I don't think that were worthy of it, and there's people they're talking about that I don't think are worthy of it in the sense that as the bylaws are written, put it that way.
And I haven't looked at the bylaws like you necessarily, so I don't know if you need to have that record and you need to have that. The Mountain West was also way tougher than it is now back then. Like way, way tougher.
Yeah, I mean, I still go back to that first year when beats BYU at home, beats CSU at home. And
two of my most incredible memories.
I had two buddies down on the sideline for that BYU game, and I was talking to somebody, and I'm sure I've told this story before, but I turned back around, and they go, Coach just said they're going to do a fake punt here. And I said, shut up. He did not say that. Sure as shit. Here comes a fake punt. I think they direct snap to Guy Toole, gets first down, and here comes Coach back. Told you. And turned around and walked. I said, holy shit, he did. And he doesn't even know these two guys. He just knew that they were with me down there on the side. He never met him.
Oh, it's incredible. He is a Hall of Fame human being. There's no question about it.
And I know he has a lot of bitterness towards Tom Berman, the way things went down at the end. And I know his wife, Michelle, definitely has bitterness.
I know his son does. I see it on Facebook.
But I hope he comes back for Javon's induction.
That would be so cool.
So,
just a ragtag bunch of dudes. And if you weren't there for it and conscious of it, Wyoming football was on life support before that dude walked in and would find any piano he could and play Cowboy Joe. And you're like, that guy already knows the fight song?
Oh.
I mean, he was legit.
One of the best was we were on our way to like Cody or Warland. I mean, we're talking, early May for golf tournaments, and that time of year the weather was iffy. We stop at what's the intersection on the way up there? It's just all it is a gas station. I can't remember. And we stop there, go to the bathroom. He comes out, he's talking to these two ranchers, and there's a border collie sitting on the floor, and they're just having coffee, maybe smoking a cigarette, I don't know. And he just went up there and, hey guys, Coach Glenn. He goes, we know who you are, Coach. Thanks for stopping. And didn't care that he was there.
Yeah.
Because at that time he really could have ran for governor.
No doubt.
And but these guys were like, yeah, it was pretty cool that Coach just stopped here, but we don't need to talk to you today. We're talking.
We're talking shop.
Yeah.
What's funny though is Dave Christensen on the flip side. I actually reached out to him because I happened to be in Jackson Hole at the same time he was, and I saw on Facebook he was in Jackson, and I said, hey, would you want to get together and have a couple beers or have lunch or something? He said, sure. So his wife and him came over, and we sat at a table in Jackson Hole unmolested for 6 hours, drinking beer, shooting the breeze, eating.
Well, there's about 25 Wyoming fans in Jackson. So.
Exactly. Not a word, man. You would have never known. So I would love personally to see that. I think back to what you're saying about going on tour around the state. I think back to, remember the old mountain days on TV where they would do that awesome special about the border war. Dan Hammerschmidt, former coach, who coached at CSU forever, and I believe he spent only 1 year at Wyoming, but it was under Joe Glenn. He was like, man, I went with him on one of those trips, and he's riding horses, and he's got the bronze boot with him every place he goes. And he was basically saying it means so much more to Wyoming than it does Colorado State. He was saying it without saying it, but he said it means so much more to people up there than it does here. And that's what CSU needs to get to, is what he was getting at.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yep, good dude. I've been thinking about that. Who are some questionable on-the-fence kind of Hall of Famers?
Well, real quick on the Hall of Fame, we all know Larry Nance was inducted this last year, but he can't come because he had to have ankle surgery.
Yeah.
I believe he's on the schedule to actually come.
That'd be great.
And, do his thank you type deal on stage.
Well, that'd be great. Because I know Ryan Thorburn did a story about every single person who was inducted, but he was not able to even get a hold of Larry Nance.
And I know that he was all planning on coming, and then the Pelicans said, no, you have to have ankle surgery this week.
Yeah.
You have to get this done.
I'd be like, I'll be at Laramie Bone and Joint. I'll be at Premier Bone and Joint. I'll get it done there. Let's wrap up today with Wyoming Hoops. They play at Colorado State tomorrow. There's a real chance. Let me rephrase that. The Cowboys have a real chance here to ruin Colorado State's entire season. Essentially taking big bucks right out of their pocket, sending them home, have a nice time at the NIT.
Yeah, putting them in the
watching.
knit.
We'll be cheering for you. Good job, Isaiah Stevens. Have fun at the NIT. I think the overwhelming sentiment between you, me, and everybody else with a brain, this is going to be a very motivated Rams basketball team tomorrow. Isaiah Stevens is playing in his final game in Moby Arena. It's been sold out.
We think.
Yeah, it's been sold out for 2 weeks.
Have you seen StubHub tickets prices?
No.
They're in like the upper 60s, 70s, and even 80s for a basketball game at CSU. I never thought I would see that.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, and, obviously what happened in the first meeting between these two, CSU loses on a half-court buzzer beater off the glass last week against Nevada at home.
After Lucas misses free throws to actually clinch it, and then he hits that half-quarter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you don't think that's going to be a pissed-off, motivated Colorado State team Wyoming's about to see? It's going to be tough, man. Can the Cowboys stem the tide? Because it's going to come early and often. It's going to be a really tough place.
And we don't have any betting lines right now, but it's got to be, I'm guessing it's going to be around 16, 17.
Really?
I'm just, because that's what it was on a couple other road trips. In recent, I just think it's going to be that bad. And I mean, if Wyoming's hitting their shots,
yeah,
those 3-pointers they live and die by them.
Yeah. So, what do you think they have to hit? Like, it's going to have to be astronomical. I'm thinking like 17 threes.
Well, it definitely has to be double digits.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. And Powell and Maniel have to stay out of foul trouble. And Walters. Yep. They just have to stay out of foul trouble.
Well, Kobe Newton should be coming back. We haven't been on the air since Kenny Foster's unbelievable comeback.
I mean, even like Dan Dickow the other night was saying, he goes, I came back from one about 6.5 months, and I thought I was doing pretty good. This kid comes back in 4 months.
It's incredible. It really is.
And did he go smoke that peyote with Aaron Rodgers or whatever the hell that shit's called?
I don't know what he did.
Wow.
It's unbelievable, though.
I mean, everybody's different. Every single body's different. Everybody heals differently. But 4 months for an Achilles is...
Well, and this is a guy who's dealt with every ailment under the sun since he's been in Laramie.
Maybe they're going to call it the Foster surgery.
Maybe. Shoot. On record, he might be one of the quickest. It's incredible. I've never done that, obviously. Jeff Linder has tore his Achilles before. I just think about it, and I think about like a slinky unraveling in the back of your foot or taking a knife to the back and just severing it. And
you can see it roll up in the back of your calf.
Oh. I was looking at it. It's the strongest muscle in your body. That's phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal.
But it snaps.
Snaps. Yeah, wow. Yeah, well, kudos to UW's team, and I'm sure the people over at Premier Bone and Joint, they probably had their work cut out for them, and a lot of unsung heroes got Kenny Foster back on the court, but he's really good on defense. Kobe Newton's really good on defense. Those guys can hit a couple of shots too. The Cowboys are going to need a hell of a lot of things to go their way. I will say a couple games ago, you were at the Boise State game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wrote in my column after the game.
For a while.
I thought they gave up. I thought that the effort was not there. They gave up. They got out-rebounded 30-6 in the second half or something like that. I wrote about it. I can't remember right offhand.
And that's what you put in there. I couldn't believe it was that bad.
Bad. Just there'd be 4 guys waiting for the ball to come down, and one Boise State guy would sneak right in and just grab it and put it right back up and in.
I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
No, it was really bad. Unless Wyoming has the worst luck of all time, I think it's pretty safe to say they wait.
And there are times when balls just don't bounce your ways. They carry them off that rim differently and go right into hands, but not 30-6.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I couldn't even believe it at the end because it was tied 13-13 on the glass at halftime. That's how bad it got out of hand. So after that game, I felt pretty confident, and it's hard. I wrote about it again after the UNLV game. It's really hard to question a team's effort. You can't reach inside. So everybody says you can't measure heart. These guys might have been giving it their all. Blah blah blah. However, we also need to keep in mind that they're also dealing with the loss of three students, and that's a road these guys are on all the time. They are. They go down to Fort Collins to do stuff. They probably are thinking, that could have been me, or I see that person up in the rack all the time eating. Maybe they know each other. You never know how people handle that kind of stuff. So we didn't see that against UNLV. We saw an unbelievable defensive effort. We saw a gritty team that damn near at the end there, a couple of freshmen, Cam Manuel with the steal at midcourt, pitches it forward to Cale Combs. He goes up and calmly hits 2 free throws with 5 seconds to go, and then get another turnover.
And he was a 56% free throw shooter. Now, he hasn't been to the line a lot.
Not much, yeah.
But still, to go up there and hit those 2 in that situation.
No sweat. Yeah, no doubt. So there were a lot of really positive things to take. I think Coach Linder says he doesn't have to light a fire under this team's ass. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because I think every team probably needs a fire lit, especially after a game like that. And I asked him, basically, did you peel paint trying to get these guys ready and say, hey, after watching that film, that was embarrassing. He said he did not have to do that, but they showed up with pride the other night, and they gave UNLV all the hell they could handle, and it was really refreshing to see that. And they feel, and of course they're not going to say anything different, but they feel like they're close to putting together a complete game, which they didn't put together a complete game against Fresno State or San Jose State when they won on a last-second shot. They sure as hell didn't against Colorado State when they had that flurry in the comeback. Nevada, they didn't play any defense, but the shots were falling. They haven't arguably put together a complete game all year.
At Air Force might be the closest that they've done.
Yes, absolutely. They still allowed a guy to hit, 8 threes? 9 threes, something like that?
So, it was in the game plan, though, Cody.
Yeah, it was. I would hope it was, because that guy was all by himself all night. But maybe, just maybe, getting a little hope here. I'm not putting a lot of weight into Fort Collins tomorrow, obviously, but maybe a little hope here that you got Kobe Newton. They've been playing with 6.5 guys pretty much all year. Now you got Kobe Newton back. You got Kenny Foster back. They're going to play D. They're not going to make mistakes. They're older, more mature players. Maybe you get in. They
can afford to get in a little bit of foul trouble more than they have been. But if those bigs all get in foul trouble, though, then they got to go really small. There's really no middle ground.
No.
Mason Walters is about the only middle ground guy they have.
But you see what happens to him when he's got a big dominant guy on him.
And I'm no coach by any means, but when he puts the ball on the floor and backs in, it just takes so long, but he gets the ball stolen a lot too.
Yeah,
he does that.
A lot of turnovers.
I really wish on the last second play against CSU in regulation when he got the lay-in, but he just went right back up to it because he had to, of course. But I really wish we would see that more, because I think he would be more effective if he took it right up.
I think you and I had this same exact conversation about Graham Ike after that Indiana game in Dayton.
Yep.
Just go up. Remember, it looked like Indiana's guys were just going up, and Ike always had to fart around before he went up.
God, when are we going to be able to sit together in an NCAA tournament again?
We might be a couple years off. Might be a little more gray than we are now. But I guess the way the Mountain West tournament works, you go in there, you probably play.
I think right now it says Fresno, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wyoming goes to Fresno last Saturday Saturday before the tournament.
Yep.
So they might be playing them back to back.
So say Wyoming, Wyoming's 2 games after CSU are more than winnable. Air Force at home, on the road at Fresno State, nobody will be there. You go win those 2. You feel really good about yourself going into Vegas. You play a Fresno State game, a team again who's really not playing great. They did play well against San Diego State the other night, but just not a good team. You take them out in Vegas in round 1, then you're rolling a little. You got some momentum, then just see what happens.
You're gonna play one of the Big Six. That's all there is to it, and we call it the Big Six because there's 6 legitimate teams that might get into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. And we talked about it before we came on the air. If I had to put a money bet on this thing right now, I might go UNLV. Because they seem like they can just turn it on and off whenever the hell they want to. And I passed them in the hallway, and they don't look like Wyoming. They look like an absolute NBA team.
Yeah, and they're one of the hottest teams going right now, and there is an outside chance, and not too far outside, that they could win the regular season.
Man, wouldn't that be something? After they lose by 30 to Air Force.
I mean, as it stands right now, there are 2 teams in that so-called net top 50 or whatever of the 6, Mountain West teams. They're going to be playing on day 1 in a play-in game.
Yep.
I mean, there's only 5 that get a bye anyway, so one's going to have to do it for sure. But not right now, there's 2.
It's going to be. We've actually talked about it. If Wyoming gets bounced or doesn't get bounced, we talked about sitting in the stands and just drinking beer and watching this tournament.
This might be one of the better ones.
Yeah. Crowd's going to be great.
There was some years when Utah and BYU were still in there. It was like, oh my.
Yeah.
It's a bloodbath every single game.
And Wyoming and San Diego State, New Mexico.
This one still might be.
Yeah. This could be really good.
One of the better ones to go watch.
Yep. So we're talking about kicking back and drinking some beer and just sitting in the crowd and watching. It's going to be – I think the crowd's going to be fantastic. I think there's going to be a big crowd for almost all the contenders anyway. I think CSU will probably even have quite a crowd there, which is rare.
Yeah, I bet you they show up in Utah State. They just drive right down the interstate there.
Yep.
So
San Diego State will be there. Hopefully UNLV will be there. They haven't
been
New
there
Mexico.
For their own
team. New Mexico will be there.
They haven't been – New Mexico fans haven't been there the last couple of years.
Yeah.
They will be there this year.
Yep. Boise State should have a nice following. Yeah. It's gonna be fun, man. I would say only Air Force, San Jose State. I can't imagine. I've not heard one Wyoming person tell me they're going to Vegas.
They're
weird.
They'll be there, but it's not going to be like it was.
Isn't that weird though? We're in March. I've not heard one person that's going.
You got to hang around better people.
Apparently so. I might be the only one going. Ryan, me, and Alex, we might be the only ones there. But yeah, I mean, like we've both talked about all year, create chaos. You beat Colorado State tomorrow, man.
Well, but definitely take care of your last two games.
Yeah,
you got to beat Air Force on senior night. And granted, these guys were only 1 year seniors, Walters, Cott, and Griffin.
Yeah,
but they've done so much for this year, and they've done it with class too.
Yep. They're a good team, man. They're a good bunch of dudes. They play hard. It's just, you can't help but wonder aloud, are these a lot of role players? Are these a lot of, I'm thinking Jeff Linder's learning a lot this year. Like, can we go back into the NAIA ranks and get a guy? And that's nothing against Mason, but can you go, is that too low?
And
because I would want Mason for like 3-4 years. It would be incredible.
But you need to find guys like that don't need to be paid.
Yes. Jeff's talked a lot about it, of course. We didn't touch on it. I don't think we need to. But the attendance stuff, he touches on it too much. We don't have any NIL money. CSU doesn't have that much NIL money. Nevada doesn't have that much NIL money. If anything, it's probably UNLV, New Mexico, San Diego State, and maybe a little bit Boise State. Other than that, and Jeff will tell you, he straight up told us, like, at the end of the year, watch, every guy who makes the first team All Mountain West list is probably making six figures. You're just like, really? 6 figures?
Well, Maldonado was 75-ish last year.
Yeah, I guess. So, I mean, I know Berman talked about how he did pretty well, but he really, pimped himself to do it. I mean, but if these guys aren't going to pimp themselves, then sorry. And I know pimping's probably not the right word to use, but you know what I mean.
And we can get into the whole at some point we do need to get into the attendance issue and why. And it's Laramie and the students. It has to start there.
Yes. It always has.
They need to create the environment, and then everybody else fills in.
Yep.
That's all there is to it.
I love what Jeff said about football's an event. Basketball's not an event. I mean, you and I have talked about it. It's like, man, is it going to snow? Like, if we don't have to go over there, you don't even want to sometimes because it's just not a fun atmosphere.
Yep.
And that's sad because I tell you what, I just talked to a fan about this the other day. When Wyoming beat Utah to win the Mountain West Championship, that's in my top 3 all-time sports moments of a game I've actually been in attendance at. That was phenomenal. Yep. Absolutely phenomenal. And to see that even – I'd love to see just a Big Monday replicated. I mean, you don't just replicate that Utah game, but I would love to even see a Big Monday 10,000 replicated. It would be unbelievable. And it just isn't happening, man. And the student section is horrendous. It's horrendous. And I don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't know if they're playing on their phone, playing video games, but this we're studying crap. No, you're not. Just stop. Just stop right there. But it's probably like us, though, man. Even though they're down the street, they're probably like, why would I go to that? It's just not entertaining.
Go out in the cold and all that kind of stuff.
It just hasn't been fun. So, and I don't know how you make it an event. I suggested last week, Tom Berman and other movers and shakers, maybe get your ass on a plane and go see how it's done at Kansas and Duke and North Carolina and other places.
Well, I don't even think you need to do it there because they're coming because of it's been 30 years.
Sure.
Of that.
But what are they doing that's special?
One person reached out to me and gave me some ideas, and I do really want to get into this at some point, but today's probably not the day. But Arizona is an example. They have their own website for the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their student section.
Didn't Wyoming try that for a minute?
Well, they had the 6-man club back in the day. Then they changed the name, blah, 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 and all these things. And all of a sudden, it's just gone. They don't have, you need a branded shirt that these kids wear to every single game. And if it's $10 to get all these rewards, incentives or whatever, it may be. So you get the shirt, you get this, or just give it to them. Who cares? But there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things that need to be done to try to get that back. But the students have to own it.
Yes.
And get it back themselves. There needs to be a core group of 25 to 30 students that say, hey, we're going to take this upon ourselves and start this. But the team and the coaching, all that, and the athletics department have to have open ears to it as well.
And go like Larry Scheidt and go shake hands and kiss babies and go to dorms and frats.
That's just not Jeff's personality,
no,
though.
It's not.
But maybe he needs to grow into that personality. I don't know. But there's a lot of things like that need to be done. Somebody mentioned the bus from Cheyenne and Uncle Charlie's. Well, I don't think you'll ever see that again because the people who did that, a lot of them aren't here with us anymore. And there's a lot of insurance things that, just that kind of stuff that, and the prices of that stuff has gone up so much that it's really not affordable.
I did see students saying it would be very helpful if there was a shuttle that went through all the dorms and through all the everything and just picked people up.
But really, to walk 300 yards?
I know. Believe me, I know.
But they have done, I have seen they do have a shuttle out to those further parking lots because of the weather for fans. So maybe they do need to do it for the students too.
Well, it's weird, and I don't know if this necessarily correlates, Jared, but we see the numbers on the website in the back end and who our readership is. It's not students. It was not students at Michigan State either. They are so tuned out or whatever the hell they're doing.
Well, Barstool Wyo Sports, or whatever it is, they did a poll, like a little bracket thing, like best places to be in Laramie.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the War Memorial Stadium was on there, the Buckhorn, all these different places. The AA didn't even make the list.
That's insane.
To be considered.
That's
and
insane.
Of course, War Memorial Stadium won, but how is the AA not even on a list created by the students to be thought of to go hang out at?
That sucks. It's disappointing.
And
it's
do you want an unruly throwing beer bottle or beer? No, you don't want that at the student section.
No.
But dang it, you can go have a drink there if you're of age as a student or even if you're underage, whatever. But it is a fun place to be. It is a fun atmosphere. And they were there for CSU. Not a lot of them, but it was better than any other game this year.
Yeah.
So if they could just replicate that every game, and then you would see the big games take that next step. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it's packed to the top again. Yeah. And there's not a bad seat in that building.
No.
And
I hear, I couldn't help but think, Josh Davis and Marcus Baylor were at this game, the UNLV game, sitting right behind the Wyoming bench, and you're just like, oh, I wish they weren't seeing this. That was really my first thought.
Yeah.
They've never seen anything like this.
Why'd they choose a Tuesday night game?
Tuesday night against UNLV? I don't know.
That's why.
Yeah. I guess, whatever the case. All right, let's wrap this bad boy up. We'll talk to you next week after Wyoming's big upset over Colorado State tomorrow, and sure you'll be online giving them hell like you always do, even though there's so much goodwill right now between the two schools for unfortunate tragedy, which they are going to do a moment of silence tomorrow too in Fort Collins for the swimmers. So good on CSU, man. Good on them. They've really been cool.
Classing up the joint down
there.
there.
Very class. So have a good week. We'll see you next week.